All right, so, have you ever just felt completely lost trying to figure out what's actually going on in the world?
Oh, yeah, all the time, especially these days.
It's like you're drowning in this ocean of information. Everyone's got an opinion, everyone's making claims, and it's tough to separate fact from, you know, well, fiction, let's be honest.
I think a lot of people feel that way, trying to just, get a handle on things.
Yeah, we all want that shortcut to being informed, right? But it's not that easy. Anyway, that's kind of the spirit of what we're doing today, right? We're taking a deep dive into a specific area where, well, let's just say there are often a lot of claims flying around.
Trade,
Trade, yeah. It can be super complex, honestly, and it's often hard to know who or what to believe.
that's for sure. We're looking at some statements made by former President Trump specifically around trade and how those statements were presented in a recent YouTube video by The Ring of Fire.
The Ring of Fire. Yeah, I've seen some other stuff. Pretty outspoken, usually lean left, I think.
I think you're right. But we're not here to judge anyone's political leanings. Definitely not.
We have the transcript from the video right here. So what we're going to do is look at what the video claims Mr. Trump actually said about trade, and then compare that to the information the video presents. We're going to try to give you, the listener, a clearer understanding of these trade discussions and the different perspectives surrounding them.
Sounds good. I'm ready to dive in.
Okay, so full disclosure, our source material here is a YouTube video transcript, and we want to acknowledge right up front that this kind of content often comes with its own spin, right?
Yeah, for sure. YouTube videos tend to be pretty direct. They get to the point, and they're usually edited to, keep people engaged.
Totally. And they're visual, right? So that might influence the way information is presented compared to, say, a written article or research paper.
Oh, definitely.
But, let's just focus on what we have here. We've got the transcript, and that's our starting point.
Okay.
So let's jump right into the first big point the video raises. It's about the trade deficit with China. And the video quotes Mr. Trump as saying, and I might be paraphrasing a little here, but he said something along the lines of, "We have a $1 trillion trade deficit with China." Now, what does the video say about that number, that $1 trillion figure?
Well, they come right out and say they take issue with it. They say the actual trade deficit, according to their information, is less than $400 billion.
Whoa, less than 400 billion versus a trillion? That's a massive difference.
Ouch. Yeah.
So, how can there be such a discrepancy?
Well, one possibility is that they might be talking about different ways of calculating the trade balance. Like maybe one figure includes certain types of goods and services and the other one doesn't.
Interesting. So it could be a matter of definition.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, the video is pretty clear that they believe the $1 trillion figure is not accurate.
Right. And there's more to it, right? The video also brings up how this deficit has changed over time.
It's exactly. They point out that the trade deficit with China actually decreased under the Biden administration compared to Mr. Trump's first term in office.
So the video's claim is that it went down under Biden after being hired during Trump's presidency.
That's what they say, yeah.
Okay, so the video also gives some context for when Mr. Trump reportedly made this claim about the $1 trillion deficit.
Oh, right.
It says he was talking to reporters while on Air Force One.
Uh-huh. And that's where the video really seems to express some surprise.
What do you mean?
Well, they point out that, according to their account of the event, reporters didn't push back, nobody challenged it, nobody questioned it.
Really? They just let that $1 trillion figure slide?
That's how the video makes it seem, yeah. And they seem a little skeptical about that, like, why didn't anyone question it? Trade deficits are pretty complicated, and $1 trillion is a huge number to just throw out there without any kind of, follow-up or clarification.
It does make you wonder, right? It's like, what's the dynamic there? How does information, especially about complicated stuff like international trade, get shared and, well, sometimes not challenged?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Okay, so let's move on to the next claim the video brings up. This one is about tariffs. So what did Mr. Trump reportedly say about who pays them?
The video quotes him as saying something like, China has happily paid the tariffs that he put on them, which, is a claim that's been made quite a few times, actually.
Right, right. And just to remind our listeners, tariffs are basically taxes on goods that are imported into a country, right?
That's right, yeah.
So the video then offers a different perspective on who really fits the bill for those tariffs, right?
They do. They say, and I'm quoting here, China doesn't pay the tariffs. The companies in the U.S. that brought those goods in, they make the payments to the U.S. government. So it's American businesses that are initially paying the tariffs. not China directly.
Interesting. And then presumably those companies might raise their prices to cover the cost of the tariffs.
Well, that's the implication, yeah. The video suggests that ultimately American consumers might end up paying more for those products because of the tariffs.
That makes sense. And the video also points out that, once again, this claim, the idea that China is happily paying the tariffs, apparently went unchallenged by reporters. At least that's how they present it.
They do seem to be making a point about what they see as a lack of pushback or scrutiny.
It's definitely a pattern. All right, so let's move on to the third big claim in the video. This one's about trade with the European Union. So what was Mr. Trump's take on that, according to the transcript?
They quote him as saying that the European Union, and I'm paraphrasing here, they don't take our cars, they don't take our food products, they don't take anything. It sounds like he's saying the U.S. doesn't really export much to the EU because they just don't buy it.
Wow. So the impression is that it's all one way, right? Like goods flowing from the EU to the U.S., but not much going the other way.
That's the picture he seems to be painting, yeah. But then the video hits back with some pretty hard numbers.
Yeah, they cite some big figures.
Yeah, they say that in 2024, the European Union purchased $649 billion worth of goods from the U.S.
$649 billion. That's like, what, almost 2/3 of $1 trillion in just 1 year.
Yep, that's a lot of trade. And it directly contradicts the claim that the U.S. doesn't send anything to the EU.
Absolutely. And the video doesn't stop there. They actually give some specific examples of the kinds of things the EU buys from the U.S.
Right. They point out that the EU buys billions of dollars worth of U.S. farm products every year, stuff like soybeans, corn, and other agricultural exports.
So not just any old goods, but some of America's biggest agricultural products.
Yeah, and they also mentioned that the EU buys billions of dollars worth of U.S. cars as well.
So directly contradicting the statements about them not taking our cars or our food products.
Yeah, the video's point is that there's actually a pretty significant two-way trade relationship going on between the U.S. and the EU.
And guess what? They also say that no one challenged these claims about trade with the EU either.
It's like a broken record at this point.
Okay, so let's just take a second to summarize what this video is claiming, just to be super clear.
Okay.
First, the video is saying that the trade deficit with China is actually much lower than the $1 trillion figure that Mr. Trump cited.
Right.
Second, they're saying that tariffs on goods from China are actually paid by U.S. companies, not by China directly, which could potentially lead to higher prices for American consumers. And third, they're saying that contrary to the claim that the EU doesn't take anything, the European Union actually buys a huge amount of goods from the U.S. every year, including cars and agricultural products.
That's a good summary, yeah.
And throughout all of this, the video keeps highlighting what they see as a lack of scrutiny or pushback when these claims were initially made.
Right. They seem to be questioning why more people didn't challenge these statements or ask for more evidence.
Yeah, it's an interesting angle for sure. Okay, so full transparency. Our job here wasn't to do our own independent analysis of trade figures or anything like that. We were just focused on laying out the claims made in this specific YouTube video and how they compare to the information the video itself presents. We're not endorsing any particular viewpoint here, just trying to be as objective as possible.
Absolutely. It's important for listeners to understand that we're just reporting on the content of this video, not necessarily saying that we agree with it or disagree with it.
Right, exactly. But I think it raises some interesting questions, right? I mean, when you see these discrepancies, the differences between what was said and what the video claims is the reality, and you consider the video's focus on the apparent lack of scrutiny, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
It makes you think about how information, especially about complicated stuff like trade, gets presented and received. And it makes you wonder, are we really getting the full story? Are we asking the right questions? And how can we become better informed and more critical consumers of information?
Those are the big questions, for sure.
They really are.
Yeah.
It's something for all of us to ponder, especially in this age of, information overload and sometimes misinformation.
Yeah, you got to be careful out there.
No doubt. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive. I think it's given us all a lot to think about.
I agree.
All right, until next time.
See you.